Good morning, everybody. My name is Julia Pagel. I'm here representing NEMO, the Network of European Museum Organizations. We are one of the partner organizations in the ECOS Consortium and leading Call 2. We are here today for the second Cascading Grants Call of the ECOS project. And we prepared a, I think, very nice and rich program to help you understand how to apply. Apply understanding what the ECOS project is about and the European Cultural Heritage Cloud about the recent consultation survey. Most importantly, of course, all the details you need for the second Cascading Grants Call. But we also want this to be a space for your questions, so please don't hesitate to ask questions via the Q&A function. So you see like a little square with a question mark in between. This is where you please post your questions. And as a last bit, this session will be recorded and accessible on our website later. So if you don't get everything, you can always rewatch it. I'm not alone today, of course. We have a really nice line of colleagues who will walk you through the different parts of the session. We have Rémi Petitcol from the Fondation de Sciences du Patrimoine, if I hope I said that okay, FSP, who will start with an overview of the European Cultural Heritage Cloud and the ECOS project. Then Charlotte Gallini from the Foundation, who will present the ECOS consultation survey results. Sharing a few insights into the community. And after that, my colleague Margherita Sani from NEMO will introduce the second Cascading Grant Call with you. And Claudia, you can go to the next slide because that would be the agenda. The aims and who can apply and scope and a few other details from Margherita. And of course, Rachel Somers-Miles from the Sound and Vision Institute in the Netherlands, who will give us a super quick update about the submission portal, showing how to navigate the practical side or giving an idea of how this is gonna look like. Next slide, please. Before I give the floor to Remy, I wanted to share with you my take of Call 2 in a nutshell. And that is that the call is designed for cultural heritage umbrella organizations and other cultural heritage organizations that have a broad reach into the cultural heritage institutions in Europe and their professionals, especially those that the ECOS project itself might not be able to engage with directly. So in other words, we are looking for partners that can act as multipliers, help us reach, support, connect more people to the ECCCH. So we support your activities in the four main areas: visibility and communication, training of professionals, collecting information about needs, and engagement of professionals. So it's really a call about connecting and collaboration, empowering organizations that already have strong networks to make Help the Cloud a shared space for cultural heritage. But now let me hand over to Remy, who will set a scene with the introduction to the European Cultural Heritage Cloud. Remy, floor is yours.
Thank you, Julia. So I am Rémi Petitcol from the Heritage Science Foundation, FSP, as Julia mentioned. So I will briefly walk you through what is the Cultural Heritage Cloud, or you can also see the other acronyms, the European Collaborative Cloud for Cultural Heritage, which is led by the ECOS project and worked on together by a lot of sister projects, which I will tell you about in a minute. So the overall mission of the Cultural Heritage Cloud is to create a shared platform designed to facilitate collaboration among heritage professionals and researchers, so everyone that engages in the creation, sharing, and reuse of knowledge about cultural heritage. And we define cultural heritage in the broadest sense, so including tangible and intangible. And through that platform, we want to provide access to data, to quality data, scientific resources, training, and advanced digital tools that are designed and implemented by us, a project, or other partners, to tailor the different needs of the communities. So the project ECCOS is structured around 4 pillars that correspond to the work packages you can see listed in the call. So we have the knowledge pillar, the innovation pillar, the communities pillar, and the sustainability ones. And you can find a description of them and through them the work packages on our website. So next slide, please. So who are we addressing really through this whole initiative? So the Cultural Heritage Cloud is primarily targeted to institutions or individuals, again, that produce, share, and reuse knowledge on cultural heritage, whether for purpose of research or conservation or any kind of professional activities around it. This is not primarily for the general public. This is for professional use. Also, the general public can, of course, participate in activities and use our tools. So the community includes prominently cultural heritage institutions, that is the focus of today's Info Day, but also academic institutions, open science communities, or in a broader sense, and all other actors that share our vision for cultural heritage. So that includes, of course, decision makers, educators, and students, other types of EU and national projects and initiatives or infrastructures. Again, open science digital communities that have an interest in open source software, etc., and not always, not necessarily primarily on cultural heritage, but also companies, especially software development companies or small companies that work on cultural heritage, for example, independent conservatory restorers or architects, etc. So all cultural and creative industries. And of course, cultural heritage professional at large. So all these communities have different ways of getting in touch with the initiatives through participating in ECCOS or participating in other projects, including the Cascading Grants project, but also through participating in the activities we plan or using the tools that we will publish soon. So next slide, please. So we understand at this stage that the Cultural Heritage Cloud is a little bit difficult to understand in terms of institutional design. We have here the ECCOS project, so that organizes this day and is leading the initiative on the establishment of the cloud. So this is what the European Commission calls a platform project. So it provides the conceptual model, it provides the base infrastructure, it provides the first few tools, it provides the knowledge graph, etc., that all other sister projects, we call them, will use to develop for 13 of them their own tools, digital tools, for 7 of them, and then this project will start next year, innovative use cases project. We also have, and that's why you are joining this webinar, Cascading Grants project. So we'll have 50 Cascading Grants projects financed by ECCOS across the years of activity of the project, so until 2029. And we already know that some of the sister projects, we also have a cascading grants mechanism. So here, for the cascading grant projects, as a category, we are speaking of many, many projects to be implemented until 2029 again. And then we also have partner initiatives and institutions. We are working together, for example, with the Data Space for Cultural Heritage or the European Open Science Cloud, together pursuing common goals, and we will publish in the next early next year more information about this kind of collaborations. So at the moment, we have all these kind of projects and different types of projects, etc. But our objective by the end of this financing cycle, so 2029, is to establish a legal entity that will simplify quite a lot how you can engage with this initiative. So next slide, please. So to get into more details, we don't have time, but we can, if you have questions, it's always possible to ask them later or to send them to the consortium. But here is a little bit a visualization of the tools and services the cloud will provide. So not only echoes. On the right, we have the back end. So we have microservices, general services, single entry point, user spaces, authentication, etc. So everything you would expect from a cloud, not necessarily related to or specific to cultural heritage. We also have infrastructure management services with storage and linked to distributed storage, etc. But what probably concerns us the most in this webinar is the left part, so the data processing tools. Echoes is developing 3 tools that you can actually access and see a description on the website with a link on the right. I will not go into details, but I strongly encourage you to read the sort of descriptions that we have of these tools. And so 3 tools by Echoes, and then we have a very large list. We don't actually have the final number of tools at this stage, but this will be several dozens of tools that are developed by what we call the sister projects. So at this stage, we have Automata, Heritalize, and Textile, so each with a different thematic focus that are developing tools. And actually, last month, a lot of new tools projects have just started. And so they will develop their own tools, and it's very important when you prepare your application that you look at the short descriptions that we have uploaded on our website that describe what is their ambition. For example, you will see that this project is developing tools for the music community, and this project is developing tools for that purpose and that purpose, etc. It's important that you look at it so you can have a better understanding of the tools and services that the Cultural Heritage Cloud will provide. And when you understand that, you will be able to include it in your application and your project. So that was it on my part. Thank you a lot for your attention.
Good morning, everyone. Sorry about that. So I'll follow on Remy's presentation with some insights into the ECHOS consultation, which is an initiative that we have launched at the beginning of the project, and that aims to first of all, map the communities of cultural heritage, and also identify their digital practices and potential needs. So the first stage of this consultation was a questionnaire that we opened for 6 months between February and July 2025. And maybe some of you in the attendance have answered it, and we thank you if so. So in numbers, this questionnaire was engaged with by more than 2,000 respondents, around 79 countries, out of which 30 are located in Europe. And we gathered 806 complete surveys, which is a very high number regarding these types of initiatives. The survey was opened to answers from either individual respondents or respondents answering on behalf of their institution. And with respondents, institutional respondents, we gathered 413 different institutions across Europe. So it's also a very important number for us to have a good overview of the landscape. And after cleaning up the questionnaire, we consider that we have just over 1,300 exploitable answers. And I'm going to share a couple of results with you just to help you maybe navigate the call and orient a bit better your projects. So in terms of professional profile, this is what the majority of, well, this is what a strong number of respondents have identified with. The majority of them, a strong number, are mid-career professionals with a high level of education, which means at least a master's degree. Most of them define themselves as employed either by a company or an institution. And they declare themselves as working for a public non-profit institution. So this includes public museum, universities, it's a very wide category that people could also specify in their answers. And in terms of fields of expertise, we have a really strong number of respondents identifying as cultural heritage, conservation and preservation professionals and researchers. But as you can see, we also have a very diverse range of respondents, and most of them have several fields of expertise at the same time that they use in their professional daily life. Another interesting result was the fact that most of them still declare working with physical objects, which is an interesting fact for us for the cloud, considering that it will be an online platform. So this involves a lot of question about capacity building and how to transition or how to make digital and material objects coexist. Next slide, please. In terms of geographic representation, I have included a map of the worldly distribution of institutional respondents. And on the left, you have responses focused on European stakeholders. And as you can see, we have strong responses from several countries, such as France, Italy, and Portugal, but a bit less from other regions. And that is an interesting insight that I wanted to share, because as this call is focused on networks and mobilizing resources to create or engage networks better, I think it's interesting to highlight that Northern Europe, as well as Eastern and Southeastern Europe, have been less engaged with us as of the questionnaire, and so they could be a good area of focus to try to help us work with them a bit better. And this touches upon the language issue as well, because this, as a multilingual project, we are encountering several challenges relating to language. And the fact that as a cascading grant awardee, you could help mobilize networks through national or regional languages is also an important aspect for us. And also, as a side note, language and glossaries are a topic that the project is working on, so that could also fit into this aspect of our work. Next slide, please. And so finally, this is just a little focus on digital literacy, as this is the main object of the questionnaire, and it could also be a good focus for potential projects. So just a couple of insights about current data documentation practices. We see that professionals and researchers still use simple notes as their main way of documenting the research they carry. And they still store their data locally. So these practices are very interesting considering what we aim to do with the cloud. And potential projects could also choose this focus to engage with their networks. And the last interesting insight for this is the challenges to data sharing, which are quite widely shared, and which in these results show that clarity of legal framework, sharing guidelines, and data and metadata quality and security appear to be the main concerns for respondents. So reaching out to communities, to potential users of the clouds with capacity building resources or other types of resources that help them get to know the cloud environment and how to better get to use it could be an interesting way to answer the call. And I let the next speaker.
Thank you. So, important question. How can my application be successful? I'll try to walk you through this difficult topic with the next slide. Of course, do not underestimate the importance of how you write your application. So, I mean, this is something I'm sure you all know because I'm sure you are familiar with writing applications for funding at European level, local level, national level. But just a reminder that to use a simple language, a straightforward language, and having a leading thread so that your text and your application is coherent, is consistent, that you start from aims and objectives, and you have activities that lead you to achieve those aims and objectives, and your outputs are aligned, are also coherent with those activities, and all of this is reflected in the budget. So I'm not going into this in detail, but there are many publications that can help you, write your project in an understandable and effective way, one of which is published on the NEMO website. So with the next slide, very simply, I remind you of the objectives of the call. This I have taken from the Guide for Applicants. Encourage cultural heritage institutions, in particular small and medium-sized ones, to join the ECCCH community, to expand this community and support skills development and capacity building, to use and to contribute to the ECCCH, and promote the benefits of the cloud to the different cultural heritage communities and equip them to be both providers and users. So in a nutshell, it is a call about promoting, disseminating, and preparing the workforce, let's say the cultural heritage professionals, because this is what the project is addressed to: cultural heritage professionals, researchers, people working in the digital field with regard to cultural heritage, prepare them to use the cloud. So in the next slide, we see the actions funded by the call. And again, this is a copy-paste text. The call funds communication and dissemination activities, digital and in-person workshops, the production of training materials, informational events, surveys that do give you elements to then shape these training materials and training events, help desks, and other creative activities. So all of this can be funded by the call. But in the next slide, we see what the call does not fund. It does not fund the digitization of cultural heritage assets. We had some questions coming through that asked whether through this call a platform could be set up to reach out to experts in specific cultural heritage areas, digitizing their assets and so on. So the answer here is no. It's not a call about digitization or acquisition of data sets. It is also not a call about funding training activities or materials that are not connected to the European Cultural Heritage Cloud. And here we had a question coming through that asked whether training materials could be produced to support the conservation, documentation of specific cultural heritage assets. No, the training materials and activities have to be addressed to, as we said before, to provide cultural heritage professionals with the skills to use the cloud and contribute to it. And also it will not fund the development of applications for digital cultural heritage. So in the next slide, in a way, we see what the prerequisites. I mean, these are not listed in the Guide for Applicants. This is something that we developed by looking at some of the questions that came through. So in a way, the existence of a community is a prerequisite. formal or informal, because the call is addressed to, as we said, cultural heritage institutions, networks, umbrella organizations, consortia of these organizations and more partners to support the development, the dissemination of the cloud. So a community is an important prerequisite, and you should pay attention in your application to describe how large this community is. So how many experts, individuals, or organizations it includes. So how many individuals, organizations, and so on you can reach out to, because this is a call about communication and dissemination. Where are they based? Where are these stakeholders based? Because also the geographical reach is important. How many stakeholders can you reach in which areas of Europe, in which countries? And also, which cultural heritage sector do you address? So these are all important elements to include in your application. This is something, this is a statement that I just took from the Guide for Applicants. Networks with a formal membership structure and fee-paying members are especially encouraged to apply, because this connects to the existence of a community. It is not a must, but it is important to show that the community exists. So what can make the difference for the success of your project? The number of cultural heritage institutions and professionals that you reach, so the more, the better. If you reach stakeholders that ECOs cannot reach, and why can you reach them? Because you know them well, so you have a good understanding or knowledge of your community. You know where they are. You speak their language. The language issue is important. The ECOS consortium is large, but of course, it does not include all the EU languages. So it is important if you can reach out to a community that otherwise would have difficulties in accessing materials and information about ECOS and about the cloud. And because you know what their needs are in terms of digital skills. And this is because maybe you have carried out a survey already among your members, or among the stakeholders of your community, and you know what they really need to be able to access to and contribute to the cloud. The geographical spread is important. So how far you can reach stakeholders geographically. And also, although this is maybe a bit difficult to explain, the underrepresented cultural heritage sectors or geographical areas that are not represented in ECOS. Again, because with this, with your application and with your work, you will contribute. You will work in collaboration with ECOS, in alignment with what it is doing. The language issue I already mentioned. Something I'm just anticipating, maybe one of the questions, quoting what is in the Guide for Applicants, when we say that the evaluation of proposals overall will consider geographical balance and representativeness of cultural heritage fields for the selection of the final 20 successful projects. So I think that we will go back to this in more detail in one of the questions. This is something, again, copy-pasted from the Guide for Applicants that raise some questions and maybe concern, because we ask you to be committed or to make some time, you know, if your project is funded, to make some time for meetings with the ECOS working groups or work packages, as we call them, especially with regard to communication, to building a new community, and to capacity building and training. This is not described in the website, on the website, but there are work packages that work specifically to create a strategy for community building and to produce capacity building materials and training for ECOs. So what can I say at the moment, or what can we say at the moment? Connecting with Work Package 2 is maybe easier because it has to do with the alignment in terms of communication, using the logo and all this. With the other two work packages is maybe not so straightforward, but there is a group, Work Package 4, that is working to create a strategy for building the community, the ECOS community. So because you will be reaching out to your own communities, you will be asked to meet with this work package maybe once or twice a year and align with their work. Likewise, Work Package 5 is already working on the ECOS Foundation course, so it's an introductory course to ECOS, which unfortunately will be ready in June, so when the successful projects will start their work, but they will continue to produce more training materials over the years. So again, aligning with them. And also a request is made to be ready to be involved in the evaluation of the cloud as it will be developing. So this is inevitably a work that is in progress. So again, our invitation is to know already, or that you will be involved in this evaluation and giving your feedback on the functioning of the ECOS Cultural Heritage Cloud. So this is all from me, but again, I'll come back to some of the questions that we received. Thank you.
Rachel.
Yeah, I think that the PowerPoint needs to be refreshed for the points to come up.
So just a moment.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Claudia.
I'm refreshing it.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay, I have it.
Super. It's always nice watching people work on their computer.
You want to start?
Very relaxing for you, Claudio, I'm sure.
I'm loading the slide.
Super. Thanks, Claudio, and hi, everyone. I imagine I've been in touch with some of you regarding your questions already via email, and I'm really excited to see that a lot of them have been answered already today from Margarita and Julia. Very short moment from me, just to say that the submission portal will be available on November 11th, so that's next week. And as you're probably already aware, in the guide for applicants, all of the content from the portal, or all of the content that we ask you in the portal, is already available in that guide for applicants. So you're really able to sort of dig in already into what we're asking. When we release the portal next week, we'll also share a demo video and some written instructions to help you navigate. It's very intuitive, but just to sort of support that, we thought better, it's almost done, but thought better to really get into the questions today as opposed to me doing a walkthrough, but you will get to see that with the demo video. And also just a reminder that the link will be shared on the call to webpage on the ECHO site. So that's the place where we keep on referring to, where all of this different information will be shared. So the link to the portal, the video and instructions will be there next week. And always feel welcome to reach out to us at the grants email if you have any questions or issues with the portal. So thanks all. Good luck.
Thank you, Rachel, and of course, Margarita, Charlotte, Remy, for your contributions. I would come to the questions and answers section now, probably the moment that you have all been waiting for. You might remember that with your registration to the webinar, you have already submitted a few questions. And of course, we are monitoring and recording the questions from the InfoDays Q&A chat. Before we start the session, be assured that we will have a look at all questions that were submitted, both through the Q&A and the registration, and publish them together with the answers together on the ECHOS page later. I'm saying that just in case your questions doesn't come up in this webinar and won't be answered to in this webinar, it will be just later on the website. So from the entries, we've decided to pull a few questions that might be relevant for many of you as they touch basic aspects of the call. We'll also address a few questions from the chat later, but I'm going to start with the question that we have received in the context of the award criteria. Could you please clarify the meaning of geographical diversity? Margarita already made a reference to it in her short presentation. Margarita, would you like to expand on this now?
Yeah, well, this expression geographical diversity comes up under section 5, where it says the 20 highest scoring proposals with geographical diversity in mind will be selected for funding. And this means that we will, of course, make a selection of projects based on their quality. And when we have the final list, inevitably, we will have to consider geographical criteria so that not all projects are funded in the same European geographical area. And so this is what geographical diversity means in this context, that we will try to strike a balance in terms of where the project, again, having in mind that it is very much about communicating, disseminating, and preparing the workforce for the cloud, that this inevitably will have to have a balance at European level. Elsewhere in the text of the guide for applicants, you find the term geographical reach or geographical spread. And this refers to the outreach that the project should have as wide as possible, how many stakeholders are reached, and so on. So it can be local, regional. It does not need to be national or international, but it has to have the capacity to reach stakeholders and also rely on an active and vivid say community and network or umbrella organization, if that is the case. So and I'm addressing this because I saw a question in the call about the quality and quantity of the stakeholders reached, whether a passive large passive network is better than a small active one. The answer is the active one is better in our idea. It's better to reach out significantly and concretely than to have a large network on paper that is not as active and effective. So in any case, this with regard to the term geographical diversity, geographical reach, and geographical spread.
Thank you, Margarita. We have another question pulled from the many that you sent us, and this one touches on the budget. And it's about clarifying whether institutions can be involved in multiple submissions and the limitations of the maximum budget. And I would like to give the floor to Charlotte to answer this question. Charlotte.
Yes, so about this question, institutions can be involved in multiple projects for the grants and across the 3 calls, so now the last 2. There are no limitations about the number of applications or participation. However, a single institution cannot receive more than an accumulated total of 60,000 euros across the 3 calls. Also, another important specification is that this accumulated maximum total of 60,000 will be calculated and checked by legal entity. So it means that if a CHI, if two CHIs have the same legal entity, like a ministry, for example, or a governmental agency, the total will be calculated for the legal entity itself. And this is the rules followed by the European Commission in general in their funding guidelines. So we will be applying the same. Finally, another important precision is that if you already have EU financing for the project you are submitting or part of it to the calls, the Commission may audit you for potential double funding, so be aware of this when you draft your call.
Thank you, Charlotte. We've pulled another question, and this one's again for Margarita. It's about the consortium composition. So what are the rules and obligations for a consortium? Does it have to be international, and up to how many partners?
So up to how many partners? Technically, there's no limit for the number of partners, but there's a limit in the budget. You already mentioned in the Q&A section that the budget is not so large, so you have to consider what can be done and how you can allocate funds to the different partners, having a maximum amount of slightly lower than 30, it's 29,800, correct? So, or Charlotte, or maybe. Okay, 30,000, slowly, yeah. So there's no limit to the number of partners. It does not need to be international, but maybe international is a plus in terms of reaching out, again, the geographical reach. The important thing is that the project serves the purpose of the call. So it reaches out to stakeholders, and it communicates the cloud and prepares the people to use it.
Thanks, Margarita. Last questions that we got from the pre-sent questions is a question about the eligibility, and that is, I think, an important one. We had it a couple of times already, and it's about the definition of cultural heritage institutions, CHIs. Remy, can you say a few words about the definition, please?
Thank you for the question, and I see it was also asked in the chat quite a few times, so I try to be clear, and please react in the chat if it's not. So, as stated in the guide for applicants, we want the the coordinator of the proposal to be a cultural heritage institution. So, by cultural heritage institution, we mean a lot of things. The first one, we reuse the official Commission's, European Commission's definition that you can find in several directives, recommendations, etc., which is a publicly accessible library or museum, an archive, or film or audio heritage institution. So here, the underlying idea is that you have collections. So this is a base definition. But we understand that for this call, this is too restrictive. So we open it up to mission-driven organizations that are fully dedicated to the preservation, management, research, or dissemination of cultural heritage, including intangible heritage. You don't have to actually hold or own collections. This is not the main criteria for us. And this call is also targeted to what we call cultural heritage umbrella organizations or networks, which are an association of smaller and often related cultural heritage institutions or individuals, not necessarily small. You can also have big members. This is not disqualifying factors. And these organizations or networks are, so of course, operated in the field of cultural heritage. They pool resources together, they protect shared interests, coordinate activities, or provide services to the members or the larger communities. So the question of libraries, it's part of the official commission's definition, archives as well. The question of universities or research performing organizations is a bit different. So here we will understand that there are cultural heritage institutions if within the legal entity you have a department or service or a center or whatever form of smaller unit that fits by this definition. So this large mission-driven organization. So for example, if you have a university library, we will consider that the university library is primarily a library, so it is a cultural heritage institution. If you are, I don't know, a university with no department or unit or whatever service that fits within this category, this is not a cultural heritage institution. So this means that you cannot lead an application. It means you can still participate, but we want to primarily fund cultural heritage institutions, as you understand, our umbrella organizations. Another thing that's also important to take into account is that you are located in whether the European Union and you are eligible by default, or an associated country. So associated country is a specific term used in EU funding, and you can find the list of associated countries online. The list is evolving. So for example, Egypt and Canada joined recently, so that makes them eligible. They were not eligible in the last call because the countries had not signed the agreement yet. So please, if you have any doubts, you can refer to the European Commission's website to check if your country is associated or not. If you are not an associated country or EU member, you are not eligible for funding. You can still participate, but you cannot receive any financial aid from the project at all. So you can be in activities, but with your own resources. And I think a final clarification about for-profit companies. For-profit companies are not considered cultural heritage institutions by the European Commission. They are considered cultural and creative industries, which is a different category. So they are not here, they cannot lead application, and the funding rules for for-profit institution is different than for non-profit ones for the whole, actually, European Cultural Heritage Cloud activities. So if you plan to involve for-profit partners, please send out a question with more details, because the for-profit partner might not be eligible. We'll have to run double checks to see if the organization, for-profit organization, is eligible. In any case, again, not eligible to lead a proposal. So I hope that covers most of the question we had.
Thank you, Remy, for your very extensive answer to this question. And of course, and I'm going to say this again, all of this will also be in writing on the website. So in case you didn't get anything or you have a second question, you can read the answers on the webpage. We now have about 10 minutes time for a few questions and answers from the chat or the Q&A. I have had a look, and again, the ones that we will not have time to respond to in this session will be published later on the website. I'll start with a question that I found at the very start, that is, can the full partners of the ECCOS project, as well as their members, apply to this call? Who of you would like to answer this question? I think Margarita has had an idea for this.
Not so much an idea, but because we've been discussing this, of course. So ECCOS members cannot receive funding through the call. But, so the members of the consortium, right? But their members, and I'll give you an example to explain what I mean or what we mean, can. Let's take NEMO. NEMO is a partner in the ECCOS consortium. So NEMO cannot apply, cannot be a partner in a consortium applying. But NEMO as a network has many members, and they are organization, the association in country X, the museum association in country X, the network, a museum network in country Z. So these organizations, which are members of NEMO, but have an autonomous legal status, they have their finances are completely separate and so on, they can. So this is the answer.
Thanks, Margarita. I found another very concrete question, which is, can it, so I think the call, be used to fund training materials and session about standards used by the ECCCH, like Lido? Would anyone like to?
Yes, maybe I can jump in. So yes, I think financing literacy around the concepts and standards that the cloud will use is absolutely part of the remit of this call. About the use of Lido by the cloud specifically, I'm not sure this was decided. And just to point out that the consortium is working on its integration strategy and roadmap that will be published by the end of the month, and in which you will have more additional technical information. You can already access several of such, a lot of technical information on the website, including part about the knowledge graph, which will be published also quite soon in the month of November. That is the first version of it. So the general idea is yes, training about concepts that the cloud is developed, so will use is eligible. About this particular one, I would double check if this is truly the one that cloud will use.
Thanks, Remy. I have another question, and that's, so there's various questions about what is eligible in terms of activities that can be funded. So I have a question about, could you provide some information about what costs can be claimed for the grant? So that is a very general one. But also, and I'm gonna say all of these, and maybe you can make a reference to all of those. Does the grant cover metadata digitization, as in preparing archival catalogs for ingestion in online portals? Or are proposals who enhance digital skills using AI eligible in terms of using the cloud better? I can make a start, but maybe Remy wants to jump in. The last one, are proposals who enhance digital skills using AI eligible? That is absolutely eligible, because what this call is really about is about making the museum professionals and the institutions, bringing them up to speed so they can join the cloud. And this is an absolute part of it. But Remy, sorry, I didn't want to interrupt.
No problem. So I can answer the first part of the question. No, this call is not targeted at funding any kind of data acquisition, modification, improvement, enrichment, whatever. This is not the purpose of this call. This was the purpose of the previous one, and to a large extent will be the purpose of the next one. But this current call, so call 2 of Cascading Grants, is for outward-looking activities, so trainings, conferences, mapping communities, etc. It's not about data.
I have another question here about specific communities that you want to train. Are there architects or people working with music or with other creative objects? Is that a community that this call would target?
Maybe I can give a first answer, and maybe Margarita, if you want to follow up. The communities are very wide, so any type of heritage, be it material, tangible, intangible, or affiliated, can be eligible. From the results of the consultation so far, we have identified a couple of fields that we have had a bit more challenges to reach out to. For example, in intangible heritage, which I know is very wide, but different networks working with intangible heritage can, of course, be engaged with. Monuments and sites are also an interesting field for us to engage with a bit more. So architects, for example, as in the question, but also managers or people that take care of mediation, scientific mediation of these sites can also be interesting to engage with. And finally, as surprising as it may sound, curators and art historians are also people that could be difficult to reach out to, also because the networks are different than in other fields. They might be a bit more topic oriented or field oriented. And so if you are part of a network of art historians working on a specific type of heritage, that could also be interesting for us, as the cloud is aimed at researchers and professionals. So we welcome people from these types of professional backgrounds too. Also, I wanted to add, sorry, when we publish the results of the first call, you can also see the types of heritage that have already been funded, and that could also give you an idea if you want to refine a bit more your project around that.
Thanks, Charlotte. I think we have maybe 2 more minutes for 2 additional questions. I have a very general one, which might be interesting for a lot of you. Could you please give us a definition of consortium? Thank you.
So this is an interesting question. We don't have a legal definition of consortium, but you will see actually in the application platform, when you submit the application, so you can submit only with one institution. So here the consortium is only you, your institution, or you can add other organizations in the proposal. So the consortium, by here the definition would be the institutions that are listed as participating in the proposal. It does not mean that they need to get funding. They need to appear on the platform. You can, of course, you can use in your application to say, I am a network organization, I have that and that members, and this is my consortium. But for the purpose of the call, the consortium is about who will be listed in the application, so on the portal.
Thank you, Remy. And I have one last question, which I'm going to ask Margarita, which please confirm the minimum and the maximum number of milestones and deliverables per project year. Margarita.
Yes, I confirm by reading the text. So under section 9, the duration of the project can be 12 months or 24 months. That's up to you. And the deliverables are a minimum of 3 and a maximum of 5 throughout the project, with a minimum of 1 milestone per project year. So this is, I think, just clearly spelled out in the guide for applicants. Considering that the interim report and the final report, if you have a project that lasts 24 months, you will also be obliged to provide an easy, not too complex interim report. These 2 interim and final reports are not considered as deliverables. So yeah, that's the answer.
Thank you, Margarita. Wonderful. Everyone, thank you very much for your attention. Thank you for all the questions that you have sent to us. I see there's a lot of them still open. Again, we will publish the answers on our website, and also pay attention to the opening of the submission portal on November 11th. If there is anything, and I see Rachel wants to say something. Go ahead, Rachel.
No, I also just wanted to say that, there's a lot of really great questions that were shared, and that a lot of them are actually answered in the guide for applicants. So if you haven't had a chance to read that, we really recommend going to the grants tab of the ECHO's website, click on there, go to call 2, and that's where the guide for applicants is. And it shares things like funding max, eligibility criteria. It gives a link to the Horizon profile, list of countries, so if you haven't had a chance to get intimately familiar with that document, we really highly recommend that you do. And then of course, if things aren't answered, reach out to us, absolutely. But yeah, take a look.
Yeah, thanks for that, Rachel. Actually, a lot of the questions that we've received are already answered in these guidelines, so I think that will help. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for my wonderful co-contributors. We'll hope to receive many applications from you in the next months. And if there is anything, let us know. Thank you and goodbye.